WTC Machinery, a global leader in designing and building machinery and tooling for heavy equipment repair facilities, is pleased to provide you with this DVD. This video manual covers installing, using, and maintaining the WTC Machinery HCRS 4P hydraulic cylinder repair stand. The HCRS 4P is engineered to efficiently disassemble and assemble hydraulic cylinders. Along with optional tooling, it is part of a complete cylinder repair system. WTC Machinery, engineered to perform, built to last. Installation. This section of the video manual covers installing the HCRS 4P hydraulic cylinder repair stand. Location. When choosing a location for the HCRS 4P, make sure there is enough room for the bed sections, and room along the sides for tools and for the mobile hydraulic cart. The location needs to have a level, even floor, and the floor under the bed sections of the HCRS 4P should be reinforced concrete, at least 8 inches thick. Also, make sure there's adequate lighting and easy access to load and unload cylinders from the HCRS 4P, either with an overhead crane or with another lifting device. Tools and supplies needed. There are a few tools and supplies needed to install the HCRS 4P. A hammer drill and 1 1/8 inch or 28.5 millimeter masonry bit, at least 9 inches or 230 millimeters long. A set of English sockets or wrenches through 1 1/8 inch. 3 22-ounce cartridges of Ultra Bond 2 anchoring adhesive, and a dual cartridge dispenser gun, both available from WTC Machinery. An additional cartridge is needed to install the optional bed extension. 16 anchor studs made from 1 inch or 25 millimeter steel-threaded rod, 10 inches or 250 millimeters long. 16 hex nuts, flat and lock washers to match the anchor studs. Up to 100 gallons or 380 liters of hydraulic fluid. Uncrating the HCRS 4P. Unpack the HCRS 4P and inspect for any damaged or missing parts. Contact WTC Machinery for assistance or replacement parts. Anchoring the bed sections. With the location for the HCRS 4P chosen, move the long 19-foot bed section into place. Then move the short 10-foot bed section into place, lining up the bolt flanges of the 2 bed sections. Level any uneven parts of the floor with shims or millwright grout, so the 2 bed sections are completely supported by the floor. Some hammer drills are small enough to drill the anchor holes directly through the bed section foot pads. If yours is, bolt the 2 bed sections together and drill the 1 1/8 inch anchor holes directly in the floor. Otherwise, mark the anchor locations on the floor and move the bed sections aside. Drill the marked anchor locations, and then move the bed sections back into place and bolt them together. Install the 16 anchor studs with Ultra Bond 2 anchor adhesive, following all manufacturer's instructions. Be sure not to drill completely through the concrete floor, or the Ultra Bond 2 epoxy will flow out of the anchoring holes and into the subsoil, causing the anchor rods to not be properly installed. Once the adhesive is cured, fasten the bed sections to the floor with hex nuts, lock washers, and flat washers. Electrical supply. Confirm that the HCRS 4P is wired for the correct voltage, shown on the electrical tag at the left end of the mobile hydraulic cart. If the electrical tag does not match your supply voltage, contact WTC Machinery for assistance. Connect the 3-phase electrical supply to the safety switch on the 19-foot bed section, following all national and local electrical codes. Mobile cart. Add hydraulic fluid to the mobile hydraulic cart. The cart holds 100 gallons or 380 liters of fluid. Only 30 gallons or 120 liters is needed for cylinder assembly and disassembly, but more fluid is needed to do cylinder testing. The recommended hydraulic fluid has a viscosity of ISO 32, or an SSU of from 100 to 200. The fluid should be rated for pressures up to 4,000 psi, 275 bar, and include anti-wear additives suitable for hydraulic pumps. Move the mobile hydraulic cart to a convenient location. Uncoil the power cable and plug into either of the two outlets on the long 19-foot bed section. Make sure the electrical supply and safety switch are both on. Have an assistant watch the end of the electric motor on the mobile hydraulic cart. Jog the electric motor by pressing the start button and then pressing the stop button. If the motor turns opposite of the arrow sticker on the motor, turn off the electric power and switch any two of the electric supply leads to the safety switch. Restore power and recheck the motor rotation. Once the motor turns the correct direction, press the start button and allow the pump to run for about 15 minutes to filter the hydraulic fluid. This completes installing the HCRS 4P hydraulic cylinder repair stand. Operation. This section of the video manual covers operation of the HCRS 4P hydraulic cylinder repair stand. Controls. We'll begin with the controls on the front of the mobile hydraulic cart of the HCRS 4P. At the upper right of the mobile hydraulic cart are the start and stop push buttons for the HCRS 4P pump and motor. To the left and below the start and stop buttons are two joystick controls. The left joystick controls the nut runner on the NTS50 torquing device, used to rapidly turn piston nuts. The right joystick serves two purposes. When working with piston nuts and cylinder barrel end caps, this joystick controls the hydraulic cylinders on the NTS50 torquing device, which provides high torque for the initial loosening and final tightening on piston nuts and end caps. The right joystick is also used to remove and install piston rod assemblies into cylinder barrels. In this case, the joystick controls the cylinder assist carriage, providing the power needed to extract and insert the piston rod assemblies. Moving to the left is the torque relief control. This sets the amount of force the NTS50 torquing device has when loosening and tightening piston nuts and cylinder barrel end caps. It also sets the amount of pressure for cylinder testing. In both cases, the hydraulic pressure set by the torque relief control is shown on the system pressure gauge directly above it. To the left of the torque relief control is the cylinder test NTS50 valve. In the down or NTS50 position, the torque relief control and system pressure gauge control the NTS50 torquing device and the cylinder assist carriage. In the up or cylinder test position, the torque relief control and system pressure gauge control cylinder tests. Finally, at the far left of the mobile hydraulic cart are the controls for testing repaired cylinders. The rod end relief valve adjusts the maximum pressure at the repaired cylinder's retract port to avoid overpressuring the cylinder. The extend retract joystick controls where pressure is applied to the repaired cylinder. In the extend position, pressure goes to the barrel or extend port, and in the retract position, pressure goes to the rod or retract port. The gauges at the top left of the mobile hydraulic cart show the pressures at both ports of the repaired cylinder. The rod end pressure gauge shows the pressure at the retract port, and the head end pressure gauge shows the pressure at the extend port. The valves under the pressure gauges allow shutting of the flow at either end of the repaired cylinder. These are used to test the cylinder's drift rate. Mobile hydraulic cart hose connections. At the back of the mobile hydraulic cart of the HCRS 4P are quick disconnect hose fittings to couple the cart to the HCRS 4P. Starting at the right, when facing the back of the mobile hydraulic cart, are the two connections for testing repaired cylinders. The middle two fittings connect to the NTS50 torquing device's nut runner, used to rapidly remove and install piston nuts and cylinder end caps. The two hose connections at the far left serve two purposes. When removing and installing piston rod assemblies, these fittings connect the mobile hydraulic cart to the cylinder assist. When tightening and loosening piston nuts and cylinder end caps, the leftmost fittings connect to the NTS50 torquing device's cylinder fittings, located at the top of the NTS50. NTS50 connections and controls. The NTS50 torquing device removes and installs piston nuts and also removes and installs threaded cylinder end caps, sometimes called cylinder bonnets. There are a number of tools to suit practically every piston nut and cylinder end cap. They all attach to the tool mounts located on either side of the NTS50. There are two pair of connections to the NTS50. The lower connections are for the high-speed nut runner, which rapidly turns piston nuts and end caps. These fittings connect to the two middle fittings on the mobile hydraulic cart. The nut runner is controlled by the nut runner joystick at the front of the mobile hydraulic cart. The nut runner can turn in either direction, but before turning opposite the direction shown by the arrows above the tool holders, make sure both of the NTS50 cylinders are disengaged. The connections at the top of the NTS50 are for the high-torque NTS50 cylinders, which do the initial loosening and final tightening of piston nuts and cylinder end caps. These fittings connect to the left two fittings on the mobile hydraulic cart, as seen from the back of the cart. The NTS50 cylinders are controlled by the high-torque extend-retract joystick at the front of the mobile hydraulic cart. When using the NTS50 cylinders, make sure the cylinder test NTS50 valve is in the down or NTS50 position. The NTS50 cylinders always torque when extending, moving in the direction shown by the arrows above the tool mounts. When the cylinders are almost fully extended, retract them to line up with the next tooth on the NTS50. The two cylinder engagement handles are located between the sidewalls of the NTS50. Choose the engaged position to bring the cylinders into use for initial loosening and final tightening. The disengaged position moves the cylinders out of the way. Choose this position whenever using the nut runner. The locking clamps at either side of the NTS50 allow it to turn between the loosening and tightening positions. To change positions, loosen the bolts holding the locking clamps and turn the NTS50. When it is square with the carriage, retighten the locking clamp bolts. Tooling. A variety of optional tools are available to use with the NTS50, suiting most cylinders and piston nuts. Use the hex plates, part number 64-000 for most piston nuts. These are available as a complete set or individually in sizes from 3 inches or 76 millimeters up to 6 1/8 inches or 155 millimeters. The adjustable hex tool, part number 64-004, covers a full range of piston nuts from 3 inches or 76 millimeters up to 9 inches or 228 millimeters. Square drive adapters connect the NTS50 to existing square drive sockets. These are available for 3/4 inch square drive, part number 64-005, 1 inch square drive, part number 64-003, 1 1/2 inch square drive, part number 64-002, and 2 1/2 inch square drive, part number 64-006. Bed section connections and pins. The bed sections provide a stable mount for the various tools of the HCRS 4P. At either end of the 19-foot bed section are electrical outlets to power the mobile hydraulic cart. Along the inside of the bed sections are a series of pinholes. These connect the cylinder assist carriage to the bed sections. Cylinder assist carriage connections and pins. The cylinder assist carriage provides power to extract and reinstall piston rod assemblies in cylinder barrels. On top of the carriage is the brace stand. This clamps onto piston rod ends to extract and install piston rod assemblies, and also holds the piston rod end while removing and installing piston nuts. The fittings on the cylinder assist carriage connect to the left two fittings on the mobile hydraulic cart as seen from the back of the cart. When using the cylinder assist carriage, use the cylinder assist extend retract joystick at the front of the mobile hydraulic cart, and make sure the cylinder test NTS50 valve is in the down or NTS50 position. The pins on either side of the cylinder assist carriage lock it anywhere along the length of the bed sections. Disassembling a cylinder with a threaded head cap. The head cap, also called the gland, seals the piston rod to the open end of the cylinder barrel. For most hydraulic cylinders, these are bolted to the cylinder barrel. On some hydraulic cylinders, the head cap is threaded into the cylinder barrel. These cylinders are disassembled with the optional rod capture tool and the spanner tool. Some cylinders without barrel eyes will also need the optional trunnion adapter. To remove the threaded head cap, first make sure the NTS50 torquing device is positioned for loosening, and then install the rod capture tool in the NTS50. Connect the NTS50 cylinders to the mobile hydraulic cart. Engage the cylinders. Start the pump, and turn the NTS50 so the rod capture tool is level. Most cylinders have a barrel eye, a bushing at the far end of the cylinder barrel from the piston rod. For these cylinders, remove the threaded rod from the rod capture tool. Loosen the bolts holding the side plates, and spread the side plates. Lift the cylinder so the barrel eye is also level. Move the cylinder into position, with the barrel end bushing in line with the rod capture tool. Bring the side plates and cones together to trap the cylinder's barrel end bushing, and install the threaded rod and hex nuts. Tighten the threaded rod nuts and side plate bolts to lock the rod capture tool. Some cylinders don't have a barrel eye. For these cylinders, use the rod capture tool with the optional trunnion adapter to clamp directly onto the cylinder barrel. Remove the threaded rod and cones from the rod capture tool. Loosen the bolts holding the side plates and spread the side plates. Loosely install the trunnion adapter on the end of the cylinder barrel. Lift the cylinder with the trunnion adapter level and move the cylinder into position so the rod capture tool side plates hold the trunnion adapter pins. Tighten the side plate bolts to lock the cylinder in place. Once the cylinder barrel is attached to the NTS50, install the adjustable V-blocks on the roller carriage and slide this under the front end of the cylinder barrel. Slide the V-blocks in to support the cylinder barrel and tighten the bolts to lock the V-blocks. Install the optional spanner assembly on the nylon bearing carriage and move this in line with the pinholes on the threaded cylinder head cap. Select the correct spanner pins for the head cap and install them into the spanner assembly. Move the spanner arms in until the spanner pins engage the threaded head cap, and tighten the bolts to lock the spanner arms. Start the pump on the mobile hydraulic cart again, and loosen the head cap until it is completely removed. Loosen the bolts, spread the spanner arms, and remove the spanner assembly. Attach the cylinder barrel to a lifting device and disconnect the barrel from the NTS50. Remove the rod capture tool and the trunnion adapter if it was used. Lift the cylinder barrel away from the HCRS 4P. Disassembling a cylinder with a bolted head cap. For hydraulic cylinders with a bolted head cap, remove the bolts holding the head cap to the cylinder barrel. Removing the piston rod assembly. Once the head cap is removed from the cylinder barrel, you're ready to extract the piston rod assembly. Position the chain vise carriage along the length of one of the bed sections, about 3/4 the length of the barrel of the repair cylinder. Place the lower V-rest near the end of the bed section, fitting the pins on the V-rest into the matching holes on the bed section. Lower the cylinder onto the chain vise, so the open end of the cylinder and the piston rod overhang the chain vise, and the lower V-rest supports the back of the cylinder barrel. Adjust the lower V-rest so the cylinder barrel is level. Secure the cylinder in the chain vise, and lock the chain vise carriage to the bed section. Place the second rolling carriage in front of the rolling carriage with the V-blocks. This is used later to support the piston rod. Fully extend the cylinder assist carriage and slide it up to the rod end of the repair cylinder. Loosen the bolts locking the brace stand sides to the base. Trap the cylinder's rod end eye between the brace stand's cones and pass the threaded rod through the brace stand sides and cones and through the cylinder's rod end. Tighten the nuts on the threaded rod, and then tighten the bolts holding the brace stand sides to the base. Slowly retract the carriage until the pinholes in the carriage line up with the pinholes in the bed section, and insert the 2 pins. Continue retracting the cylinder assist to the end of stroke. Jog the cylinder assist carriage forward slightly and remove the 2 pins from the carriage. Extend the carriage to line up with a new set of holes in the bed section and pin the carriage to the bed. Repeat until the piston rod assembly is partially removed. Move the empty rolling carriage under the piston rod, close to the cylinder barrel. Install the support stand in the carriage and bolt it to the carriage. Adjust the stand until it supports the piston rod. Continue removing the piston rod assembly until it is completely out of the cylinder barrel. Removing the piston nut. The next step is removing the piston nut. With shorter cylinders, the cylinder barrel can be left on the chain vise while doing this. For longer cylinders, lift the cylinder barrel off of the HCRS 4P to make enough room. Attach lifting gear to the center of the piston rod assembly and disconnect the brace stand from the rod end. Move the cones on the brace stand to the holes at the top of the 2 sides. Lift the piston rod assembly and move it so the rod end is over the brace stand and the piston end is over an open part of the bed section. Move the rolling carriage with the support stand close to the piston end of the assembly. Lower the piston rod assembly so the piston rod eye is between the brace stand's cones and pass the threaded rod through the brace stand sides, cones, and through the cylinder's rod end. Tighten the nuts on the threaded rod, and then tighten the bolts holding the brace stand sides to the base. Adjust the support stand so the piston rod assembly is level. Choose a correct tool to remove the piston nut. Install it into the loosened side of the NTS50 and move the NTS50 up to the piston nut. Make sure the NTS50 cylinders are engaged and the cylinder and nut runner hoses are connected. Rotate the NTS50 and adjust the support stand until the tool engages the piston nut. Loosen the piston nut. After initial loosening, disengage the NTS50 cylinders and finish removing the nut with the high-speed nut runner. Installing the piston nut. Installing the piston nut is similar to removing it. Lock the piston rod eye to the brace stand's top holes and use the support stand to level the assembly. At the mobile hydraulic cart, adjust the torque relief control to set the amount of torque for the piston nut. See the chart relating pressure to torque. Choose a correct tool and install it into the tighten side of the NTS50. Move the NTS50 up to the piston nut, making sure the NTS50 cylinders are disengaged and the cylinder and nut runner hoses are connected. Rotate the NTS50 and adjust the support stand until the tool engages the piston nut. Tighten the piston nut with the high-speed nut runner. After initial tightening, engage the NTS50 cylinders and finish tightening the nut with the NTS50 cylinders. Reinstalling the piston rod assembly. Reinstalling the piston rod assembly into the cylinder barrel is the reverse of removing it. Support the cylinder barrel with the chain vise and V-blocks on one of the rolling carriages. Lock the chain vise carriage to the bed section. Support the cylinder barrel with the chain vise and lower V-rest. Level the cylinder barrel. Lock it with the chain vise. And then pin the chain vise carriage to the bed section. Install the piston rod eye in the brace stand and support the other end of the piston rod assembly with the support stand on the second rolling carriage. Adjust the piston rod assembly so it is level and at the same height as the cylinder barrel. And then lock the brace stand. Fully retract the cylinder assist carriage and slide it and the piston rod assembly up to the cylinder barrel. Pin the cylinder assist carriage to the bed section. Slowly extend the carriage until the piston touches the cylinder barrel. Check alignment, and then push the assembly into the barrel. Continue extending the cylinder assist to the end of stroke. Jog the cylinder assist carriage forward slightly and remove the 2 pins from the carriage. Retract the carriage to line up with a new set of holes in the bed section and pin the carriage to the bed. Repeat until the piston rod assembly is partially installed. Remove the support stand and second rolling carriage and finish installing the piston rod assembly. Assembling a cylinder with a threaded head cap. Assembling a threaded head cap is the reverse of removing it and uses the optional rod capture tool and the spanner tool and the optional trunnion adapter for cylinders without barrel eyes. Install the rod capture tool in the Titan side of the NTS50. Disengage the NTS50 cylinders. Start the mobile hydraulic cart pump and use the nut runner to turn the NTS50 so the rod capture tool is level. Clamp the cylinder's barrel eye with the rod capture tool, or use the trunnion adapter for cylinder barrels without an eye. Support the front of the cylinder barrel with the V-blocks on one of the roller carriages, and adjust the V-blocks so the barrel is level. Install the spanner assembly and spanner pins. Move in line with the cylinder's head cap, and lock the head cap to the spanner pins. Start the pump on the mobile hydraulic cart and begin tightening with the nut runner. If extra torque is needed, engage the NTS50 cylinders and finish tightening with them. Optional tooling. WTC machinery offers optional tooling designed specifically for the HCRS 4P cylinder repair stand. To learn more, contact WTC Machinery. Maintenance. The HCRS 4P cylinder repair stand will provide years of trouble-free service with just a few easy maintenance steps. Replace the hydraulic filter element at regular intervals. In most cases, change the filter after every 50 to 100 hours of use. In environments with heavy contamination, change the filter more often. Inspect the tools before every use. Always replace tools that are cracked or mushroomed. Periodically inspect the hoses and cables on the mobile hydraulic cart and replace damaged or worn hoses or cables. This concludes the HCRS 4P Cylinder Repair Stand Video Manual. If you have any questions, email us at sales@wtcmachinery.com or call us at 262-567-3993. If you're interested in other machinery for your repair facility, please visit WTCmachinery.com. WTC Machinery. Engineered to perform. Built to last.